Well, it's been over a month since Shags and I have been together. We had an opportunity now that he's back from Oregon. I decided to take off for the East Coast. So that cedar shake style house you see there is very common on Martha's Vineyard, where I'm recording from, outside on this beautiful May 1st day. Shags, welcome back. We have a lot to unpack. I think we'll kind of skip the formalities of the normal podcast and cover the real serious topic of what you recently went through.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's good to be back. This is kind of brand new for me, getting back to normal life because it has been a month, nearly a month. Um, I went home. I got the call. I mean, it's hard to unpack because dad had been sick for a long time. He had struggled
Uh-huh.
with heart disease, and then pulmonary fibrosis of the lungs because he was going to get on a heart transplant list. And to do that, they got to go through the whole spectrum of tests. And that's when they found out that his lungs were solidifying, that he had the fibrosis of the lungs. Now, we have no proof. It's all wild speculation, but they thought it may have been from all the years working in mills and sucking in fumes. And that's kind of what caused it. But last year, he was found unconscious at home. My mom found him outside and unresponsive, and we thought he may have had a stroke or something, and ended up he was septic and had a virus of the blood. And long story short, they thought now that he may have had ALS, that there might have been a neurological disease at play as well, because his body stopped swallowing. It just wouldn't swallow. And with a stroke, they said that, well, you saw it, you get to a point, and with me, and generally you recover or it stays that way, or you got to do physical therapy to try to get some of it back. It doesn't continue to get worse like dad's did, which kind of explains a lot of how quickly he deteriorated in this past year, losing some mobility and some other things. And it kind of makes sense too, because he had so much hardware on his heart. You can't just throw him into an MRI machine. And you go to your heart doctor and they say, well, you still have heart failure. It's still at the 18% that you've been working with for the past year. We don't know why you're losing all this weight. We don't know why you're having a hard time standing up or being stable. Then you go to your lung doctor and they tell you the same thing of like, yeah, your lungs haven't gotten any worse. They're still working at, a percentage, and we don't know why you're losing all this weight and you're struggling with your stability, because that's what they specialize in, is those particular, your heart and your lungs. And without someone going, we need to get him into an MRI machine. But quite honestly, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, that I think it's probably for the best that he didn't know. And I made it home in enough time to see him. He wasn't really verbal at that point, but he did acknowledge Savannah and I and gave us a hand wave, and that was kind of sweet of him. And I got to talk to him for a little bit, and he actually passed away the next morning when the hospice nurse was there, which was really, it was a blessing that she was there. And it just, the timing of all of it really makes you think of, a higher power, or just his will and him knowing what was happening, because he passed away shortly after my mom had signed all the hospice paperwork. And if he hadn't, there would have been a whole list of things we would have had to, the coroner would have had to come out. Like, there was a lot of things that would have happened if he had passed before the point he did. And I made a joke on the radio show this morning that, God bless this woman. I mean, what a terrible job to have to be a hospice intake nurse, because she was just
Oh,
there to get all the information, and then she was
yeah.
going to set up a schedule for the actual other nurses to come in and kind of take care of dad. And she's doing her best, but she was telling some stories about his personal life, and the whole room was just kind of like, okay, just get through the details. Let's sign the paperwork. Let's get everything going and let us be. And I joked that dad could could
Yeah.
tell and was like, "Don't worry, I got this.
I'm out.
I can't handle another one of these stories there either. I'm out. See ya." But in all seriousness, having her there after he passed was a godsend because she knew exactly who to call and she made all the phone calls for us and she took care of everything we needed, and it was a real blessing. And
Those hospice nurses, man, they're like angels on earth, you know. I assume no matter what your job is, eventually you become kind of numb to the reality of what everyone else is going through, knowing what they're going through, but still like you deal with it day in and day out. And to have that kind of a skill set to help people through the hardest time of their life, um, not only the patients through their hardest time, the end of life, but also the families and stuff. So I'm glad to hear that they were there.
yeah,
I got to know your dad a little bit, and you had told me for years that he was, declining, and I just didn't see it. I mean, I clearly didn't know him that long, but even when we were out in Oregon just a couple of years ago, he couldn't hike the mountains and stuff. But any 70-year-old that's been living that way for that long can't hike the mountains. I mean, Uncle Steve's kind of a anomaly, and so I was like, he doesn't look that bad. And then when I saw pictures from the 50th wedding anniversary, it didn't look like the same person.
no.
So it had
And
really gone
that's why I think it
fast.
really was like a neurological disease because this
Mhm.
past year, like his everything about him really changed. And I mean, that's kind of what happens when your brain starts failing like that and your body just stops connecting those. It's not firing, it's not working. And that's why I really think that's kind of what really happened. And I mean, I it's something that we're all going to have to deal with. It's life. It's sometimes it feels too short, and then you feel selfish for not wanting people to go, even though it was their time. But I'm happy that he's not struggling anymore, that he's not in pain, that he's not out of breath, that he's not feeling the anxiety and the panic and the pain and suffering. I mean, it was very very peaceful the way he passed. I mean, I was there. I was the one watching him, and I was like, I think Dad stopped breathing,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of a very peaceful, two quick, short, shallow breaths, and then that was it. There was no. It was very. It was my first experience. I know you sat with your grandmother and saw those final moments, but it was the first time for me.
Yeah, I sat with three of my four grandparents. I watched three of my four grandparents, watch the lights go out. And yeah, there is some peace in that moment. But I got to think, man, like I really do, that your dad was waiting for you to get home. I feel that my grandfather certainly was waiting for me. And it was a very similar situation where I got the call and I was in Montana and had to get back to Indiana, and he held on long enough for me to get there and be bedside. And same situation where he couldn't speak, but he gripped my hand and squeezed my hand a few times, and sat there next to his bed, and the breathing just stopped. And so I 100% believe your dad was waiting for you to get there and say your goodbyes. And so I'm sure it meant the world to him that you got there so fast. Glad you
Yeah,
did.
and he was just so tough. It was hard to believe. Like
Yeah.
I probably should have went out a little bit earlier, so maybe I could have visited with him when he could speak. But he had had so many close calls before, and I mean, you met him. He's one of the
Yeah.
toughest SOBs you'll ever meet before in your life. I just didn't think that this was actually going to
Be
happen
it. Yeah.
and be the one. But I mean, that's the way life
Oh
is.
man, there's so much to unpack here. I mean, just from the fact that everybody listening has either been through this or, very likely is going to go through it. The worst case scenario is when a parent buries a child. So I know every single person listening, if you're a parent worth an ounce of your salt, then you want to go before your children. So we're either going to go through it or we already have gone through it. I've not lost either of my parents, but as I said, my grandparents. And you look at your dad like they're a superhero, and I know your dad, like you said, like I said in the last couple podcasts, he's just a tough guy. He was what I would have cast in a movie to play a guy from like the hills of Oregon.
Yeah.
He was great though, in my opinion. I mean, he wasn't my dad, so I didn't get the bad side. I only got to see the cool side. So every one of us has our own relationship with our fathers, and it's being the oldest boy, as we both are. That's a tough road with a dad sometimes, and there's so many emotions to unpack with that too. But the hunting, the fishing, the riding around having a roadie with his buddy Rudy, and the things they talked about as men and mill working men. But
Oh
then
yeah.
watching your dad around your mom, like, I talk to people a lot about, like, I don't have a lot of like great examples of marriages that work over a long period of time. I know some people that have stayed married because they just gritted it out for as long as they could, but your parents really seem like friends, and your dad like really loved your mom, and you could see that, like when we went clam digging that day, how proud he was of his wife. And just, so I thought that was super cool that he had both of those sides to him, the tough guy, and yet the put the love where it belongs guy at the same time. So
Yeah, 100%. And I found out because I always knew my mom was a lifeguard and I knew my dad was kind of creeping around the pool because he had the hots for her.
I knew
But,
that, yeah.
but yeah, but I didn't know that his buddies dared him to ask her out because they didn't think she would ever in a million years say yes. So it actually worked out because that got brought up a lot, that mom was probably the best thing that ever happened to dad. And he
Well,
understood it and he appreciated it and he knew it and they loved each other quite a bit.
yeah, man, that's a pretty good way to summarize that. You could tell that that guy knew he was a lucky guy, and I think we could all just hope for that blessing in life. So, how is your mom?
She's doing good, and I mean, she's going to take advantage now of a couple of trips. Like my brother Noah and his wife, my sister-in-law Angie. She turns 25 for the second time, so they're going to go celebrate in Hawaii. So they're inviting
Oh,
mom to go do that. So she's really excited for that opportunity. And then Chloe May turns 21, and they're all going to Vegas later this year. So she's gonna to join that trip as well. And then of course the big wedding out here in October that they're coming out a week before. And Andrea, my sister, is gonna take her to Branson and do some things in Missouri that she always wanted to do as well. So I think she's gonna be okay. She's got a pretty impressive group of people, not only family but also friends, and just the small town love that people will always be looking out for. And I mean, it showed in Dad's service that we were at the church that held 250 in their pews, and we added 60 more chairs, and it was standing room only. And then there was a line of probably another 100 people outside the door. I mean, Trevor, my co-host, and then Carla, my boss, flew out to Oregon for the funeral to surprise me and couldn't get in because they showed up on time and you had to be there like 30, 40 minutes early to get a seat. It was a pretty incredible to see that small town come together to celebrate Dad's life. And
well, I'm glad to hear somebody made it out from Missouri, and I'm sorry I couldn't make it, man. I really wanted to, and initially, I mean, when you texted me the 10th, I was on my phone buying a ticket when you
yeah,
called me back and said, hold on," and I mean, and I never do the protection either, so you'd have just had me for a weekend in Oregon without like the service, but it ended up being the same day as my younger daughter Annabelle's senior prom, so I had to stay home for that. So I had hoped to get out there and see everybody. I mean, it's neat that, so much of your family have become people that I know and also care about, and some of your friends out there that are so cool, like Brad and his wife and family, and your brother and your sister. And how are they doing? How's your brother and sister doing?
I mean, everyone's doing as good as you can imagine
Yeah.
in the situation. We had ebbs and flows, and I was even talking to some people today where it still kind of just starts sinking in because with that month leading up, we all had jobs that we were doing, whether it was, trying to write the obituary or get your speech ready or get some photos done. We're doing a slideshow. There was something to distract you. And now that I'm back doing my everyday, my real life, it starts to kind of sink in a little bit. And
Yeah.
everyone's doing good, as good as they can be.
Yeah, you're the patriarch now of the family. You're the oldest man. That's that's quite a ascension. Like
I have to remind Noah of that.
I just did. I just did. Well,
But
he is back there taking care of things though too,
yeah, no,
So
that's true. And there's talks. We may try to buy a little spot or something out here for mom so she can come out and do extended stays and hang out and kind of explore the Midwest and do some fun adventures as well. So
oh,
I was
cool.
actually I was actually going to call her when we get off this podcast and check in because I,
Yeah.
I I haven't visited with her since I got back. I was texting, giving her updates on the drive across the country, which is so brutal. It sucked so bad, but I haven't actually got to talk to her on the
Yeah.
phone yet.
We're different on that. I mean, how many hours was it total to get back?
Like I think what we do, a 12, 11, and an 8,
So
so like 31.
it's a haul. But I got in the car, so I'm out here with Johnny Graham, who has been on the podcast a couple of times,
Yeah,
chef from Jefferson City, but he's moved out to Martha's Vineyard, and I'm out here trying to get my 37th state done. Johnny promised me it was going to be the easiest of the 50 states I do, and we got straight up blank this morning. Never even heard a bird. But
really.
then you come into town, and we'll do another podcast probably next week with Johnny and his friend that I'm going to be hunting with tomorrow. And there's just strutters walking down the middle of the street. So it's like we just need to be in somebody's backyard with a bird feeder. I mean, that's where they're all at. And it's like there's one. Oh, there's four. Oh, there's four more, and it's like they're not out in the woods. They're eating bread off of people's porches, and only four turkeys were turned in this district last year. So like no one hunts and
Wow.
turkey. There's some deer hunters out here, and the deer are thick. They're everywhere. The island's like 20 miles long by 11 miles wide. There isn't a house on Zillow under $1 million on the island. Yeah, Johnny's house that he's staying in right now. He's trying to buy a house. They're setting up their new catering business. They were on High Street right there in the Opera House and in Jefferson City, but they've got a new building here, and they, as Johnny and Vicky, his girlfriend and her two kids, all live here. But like they're renting right now a 600 square foot house for $3,200 a month, and that's on a friend deal. Like it should be 5,000 a month.
Wow.
So it's unbelievable how expensive things are here. But that being said, it's incredibly beautiful too, and you can understand. Like I was at a house earlier today that was built in the 1600s, so it's just the history here is amazing, all of that. But like we met up at the St. Louis airport because I had to ditch my car there, and then we just bombed across the country. And Johnny took a nap from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. and I was like, I'll see you when the sun rises, man. I just pedaled to the metal. And we got here, so I'm a fly home, thankfully. But yeah, so these road trips. But it is getting tougher as you get older. Like you get out of the car, like trying to go one tank of gas without stopping. So like 4 hours, and you get out and your legs are like 2x4s. It's like trying
Well,
to like move your
anymore,
legs.
if I have any cups of coffee, I have to pee in 15 minutes. So
Oh,
it was
dude,
like, this is brutal.
this is one of those things I shouldn't admit on the podcast, but I bought one of those like red pee jugs, like for a boat. So, for when I'm traveling solo anymore, man.
Way of the
I just
road, Ricky.
oh
Old
yeah,
trailer park
king of the
reference.
road, man.
Trailer park boys.
It's yeah, I can't drink a thermos of coffee like I
No.
used to, or I'll be off at every exit. It's It's miserable. So, anyways, I stayed in touch with Uncle Steve some, and I know he had a tough time with it too.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be the lone survivor of the three brothers, that's got to be pretty. It's got to hit pretty hard,
Yeah.
So, but he reached out, and he's, the way he is, which is super kind and generous. I want you to be very honest with me. I want you to be very honest with me. Like, I got my deer, so I don't want to take somebody else's spot. And I'm like, man, you are welcome every year until you decide you don't want to come back. So it makes me feel so good. He's like, I enjoy coming out there with you two so much. And I'm like, come on, man. Like every year, like we'll figure, we need more property so we can get back to having deer camps.
Yeah.
But he's coming again. So that's pretty awesome. So
Yeah, he was super excited about it, and
yeah.
I think he kind of likes it. That it's not as much work. He can just sit. I don't think he'll ever admit it, but I think he likes to be able to put like a heater, some warm hands, some hot hands in a pocket, and just sit and not have to be going
Yeah.
up and down those giant canyons anymore.
That's true. That's one way to think about it. And it's different, that's what's so cool. Like, so I'm out here, and like I said, only 4 turkeys were turned in, and that's Nantucket, that's Cape Cod, that's Martha's Vineyard, that's part of the mainland. It's District 13 or whatever here in Massachusetts. And um I've been very like cautious to say I'm here hunting. I don't want to offend anybody because Johnny's business is here, and but everybody's been super cool. They're like really intrigued by it. And you talk about Johnny being a chef, and like we're gonna do this with the meat, and we're gonna do that with the meat. And it's been neat to see people's interest in it. Um, and that's what's been so cool about the whole journey around the country. So I've gone from the Pacific Ocean now to the Atlantic Ocean and back and forth multiple times. And the whole 50 and 50 quest is really starting to materialize into this Bourdain like journey, that whereas he used food to connect to places and people, I'm just using hunting to connect to people and places. I stood in the front yard of a lady's home today. They own the gas station here in one of the small towns, and it's like her father-in-law started it, and now her husband owns it, and now she has it. And there's 3 families that kind of like settled this island back in the 1600s, and her husband has lineage to all 3 of them. And it just really cool. Like, we're such a young nation that to be able to go back to really the oldest place in the country. I mean, we're not far from Plymouth Rock, where the Pilgrims landed. So whereas Missouri, we're looking at towns that didn't even start until around 1900. This place was already around 300 years before that. So it's just cool to experience all that different stuff, and then figure out like what you like at different times of your life. Like, I'm done busting ice with my shins, like I'm not doing that anymore. And Uncle Steve's 70, so it's like he doesn't want to haul an elk out by himself anymore. That's tough. So might as well take a cushy box blind for a few years.
Hell yeah! So, are you hunting on public land or are you on private? Like, how are you turkey hunting out there?
So we're on private land. So this morning, I won't say who the guy was. I didn't get to meet him, and I hope to, but uh, I was in the backyard of a $20 million house. And I mean, it's a really nice house, but you wouldn't look at it in Missouri and think it was a, $20 million house. Let's just put it that way. But like, we literally, Johnny's like, I do a lot of events here and I see turkeys every time. So like, we pull up to this house and park in the driveway, and then go out behind the pool and put up a blind. And I was like, dude, this is giving yard bird a whole new meaning, And uh we ended up not seeing any there, but we had to bust out of there about 7:45 when 4 work trucks pulled up to start unpacking pool furniture. And there's like 2 decoys in the backyard around a blind, and no, like it didn't like stop them in their tracks or anything. They're just doing the pool work, and I'm like,
They got a job to do.
but they could have never seen anything like this before. So when I like turn the blind over and come like walking out in camouflage, they had to be like, "What in the hell is happening?" It had to be like a Red Dawn moment for them, like, what's going on here? So that didn't work out, and he kind of had all his eggs in that basket. But then he quickly was like, I'm going to call this person, I'm going to call that person. And he called a woman that's got 63 acres, and we're going to be hunting there the next 2 mornings. So his friend is I don't know exactly what his title is, but he's like in charge of natural resources for the Native American tribe on the island. So as far as like hunters on the island go, like this is the guy, and we're gonna be with him tomorrow. And so like, when Johnny called this lady, she's like, "You guys are welcome to go there, but it's not going to be very hard, right?" Like they're and Johnny's like, "Well, it'll probably be a little harder than you think." And uh she's like, "Yeah, no," like, but I'm like, I was like, at least I didn't get one on the first morning that way. So
Yeah.
hopefully she's right, and hopefully tomorrow it won't be very hard. With your tag, you can take two. So I'm very concerned about getting the first one. So like Jakes are on the board, any legal birds on the board off the bat. And then, maybe on Saturday I could try to hunt a little harder for one. There is 1,600 acres of public land, but it is such a non-hunting culture. Johnny's like called the police and been like, "Hey, we're going to be hunting here. When the calls come in about gunshots, just know that we're hunting here." It's like people don't hear gunshots. And uh so it's really interesting, and it's cool that he's being like so cautious and above board, and we're talking to the police, we're talking to the neighbors, and really I think doing a good job in a non-hunting environment to represent hunters well, which is important to me. So
Yeah. Well,
so
that's cool.
I know, you had a lot to do with your father while you were back there, but you were back there for a month. You must have done a few things that were fun. That is one nice thing about these horrible situations, is it usually brings you back together with cousins or friends that you haven't seen in a while, and
Oh yeah.
create some sort of reunion. So what were some of the positives that you got to experience?
Well, I went 3 for 3 on having a salmon on and losing it, so that's always
No.
exciting.
Your dad was laughing his ass
Oh
off.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because one of them was when we went out to spread his ashes with Rudy and Bob and a bunch of the crew from the float that all salmon fished together. We did the old hog tie where we all tied up to one another, and man, I could just hear my dad laughing. I had that salmon on and was fighting it. I was like, I'm gonna be a legend. Let's do this. And then he rolled on me, and just I saw the hooks come flying out of his mouth. So I
Mm.
went from a legend to a laughing stock real fast on that one. That one kept me up a couple of times, but no, I got to go do a couple of things that I always enjoyed growing up and trying to clear my mind, walking some of the streams and just enjoying Oregon and its beautiful countryside, and spent some time on the water with Brad Brooks, and went out with Mom and Noah, and did a couple of things as well. So I did, but not as much as I might have in the past. But
Hmm.
it was still a good time being out there for
You get
sure.
to get to spend some good time with Cooper.
Oh yeah, yep. Cooper and I took a day and did a little fishing ourselves, and he was cracking me up because he loves to leave fish to find fish. We found a spot in the city park just using worms where he was getting bites all the time, and he's like, I got to get out of here. I got to go find some fish. I was like, what are you talking about? And we went to 4 different spots in the park, didn't have another bite. So I was like, probably should have stayed at the first one there, bud.
Is he playing sports right now?
Yet I did get to watch him play a couple of baseball games. First base, bats fourth or fifth, depending on the lineup. Got to see him hit a monster triple. Could have been a home run, but he's kind of a bigger boy, and I
He
was like,
doesn't. He don't move fast,
no, I
huh?
was like, you need to learn how to bend your knees when you run, man. You just out there straight legging it all the way to third base at like 10, 11 years old. But
That's funny.
it was cool to see him out there and playing sports and just being with the family. Really, it was pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, doesn't sound like it, man. But I was kind of worried on that you'd come back and tell me you were moving to Oregon. So
Well, I told that to Trevor. I was like, I know why you and Carla came out to that
yeah,
funeral. It was because I'd been home for a month, and Savannah was already like, I think I could live out here. I was like, don't say that too loud.
yeah,
Everyone's gonna want us to. But
yeah.
I mean, it's honestly, I love it out there, but I have such a good thing here in the mid Missouri, Midwest area that I don't think I could give it up. And I do enjoy it out here. We have a lot. I mean, Oregon's super cool and super incredible, but I mean, when it comes to outdoor opportunities, Missouri is just so incredible in itself. And then you hear everyone out there, because I live right on the Oregon Washington border, and now the state of Washington has increased some of their fishing licenses and fees by like 50%. And it kind of puts it in perspective when people out here are like always complaining about the Department of Conservation, and out there people are complaining that they're getting outpriced to do anything because that's their major funding. And it's just, it makes me laugh all the time that it takes, I really believe sometimes it takes some out of staters to move in here to realize how blessed the state is. And you want to shake some of the blue bloods, the true borns of like, you don't know how good you have it. Like, stop bitching and moaning. It's pretty incredible out here.
Well, while you were gone, I took the opportunity to shake a few of them.
Dude, I mean, you got called a scumbag and a maggot. I was like,
I think
holy
you're a
smokes.
scumbag too. It was plural. I think you weren't even there, but I thought he was talking about both of us. Like we're scumbags, like lawyers and what politicians, you know. I just man, I had some good zingers to come back with, but I guess I'm just over the comebacks, you know. Like and honestly it's you know, there's some of the usual suspects that are still on there. There's names that we've been watching for years and um it is interesting how you grow into a thicker skin, you
Yeah.
know. When I was at CFM and that was all starting off, I would argue back and um you know, the instinct is always to fight, like in me, like it's just there. And somehow I've gotten to a place where it's just like, you know, do what Joe Rogan says. You put it out there and you walk away.
Yeah.
Grab the popcorn and watch the comments. Now, back in the day, I used to have Ron Kruger and some other pit bulls that I could turn loose on them, but what's the point? Like at this point, at this age and at this level of like maturity and professional growth, you know that the people who matter, the ones that are actually the decision makers, the people who actually run the world, when they see that, you know, those people are discrediting themselves. Like no one needs to help discredit those people. They do a pretty phenomenal job on their own, and like engaging in their rhetoric is nothing but negative for you, you know.
Yeah.
And
And you're never going to convince anyone. No one's ever changed their mind because of some epic Facebook comment reply. Some of them just
yeah,
make themselves look ridiculous. Like this Gregory guy saying MDC needs abolished. It's a criminal enterprise. And it's like,
right.
dude, you
Come
can
on.
you
Yeah.
can disagree with the way they're handling CWD, but
Yeah.
to think the department needs to be abolished, it may be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard before in my life. Or there was another comment on there going, what has MDC done that's good for the state lately? And I'm like, what do you mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, they complain about CWD, they complain about some otters, and then the snakeheads that are now popping up down in like southeast Missouri. But
That's
no
been going
one
on
mentions,
forever. Yeah.
yeah, no one mentions the centers, the nature centers, all the programs that they have for first timers. I mean, I've used them before. I know Trevor's used them before. The NAS programs, like you don't want your kids being able to do archery in school because yeah, the department needs to be abolished because of CWD and their handling of it. And they're just doing too good a job. Like when you see, and they're talking about like 1% of deer in the state have CWD, that's because that's where they want it there. They're not trying to eradicate it. We're trying to keep it as low as
Mhm.
possible because I believe if it gets up to like 13, 15%, you're too late. Like you've lost your herd of deer in the state to CWD if it gets up to that. And you have a bunch of these people that are just dropping stats like, how ridiculous is this? They shot 200 deer and there was only 2 that had CWD. Well, that's the percentage we want to keep it at.
Yeah. I mean, the number of like contradicting comments that come out of the people that are all opposed to MDC. Like, at the end of the day, if you really want to find out why those people are opposed to MDC, all you got to do is look up their CaseNet files and see how many violations they have from the department. And that usually explains it. Or it's that same crowd that, you know, wants to grow and release feral hogs across the Ozarks and then chase them down with their dogs and sit there and drink a cheap beer 10 while their dogs tear the flesh from another living animal. So, I mean, at the end of the day, man, like there are people who hunt, or you know what I would rather say, people who kill animals that aren't really hunters, that they don't do it for the right reasons, and we know that those people exist, and it's so critical for us to show the other side of that. So hey, I got a guest here I want to introduce you to, just to show you how far the power of Shags reaches. You've got a fan here on Martha's Vineyard.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is Violet. So
Hello.
Hi, Violet.
this is
Hi.
Vicky's daughter. So Violet has just transplanted from Missouri to the Vineyard. So she's a big
Fancy.
timer now. She got to, you know, she's fancy now. So this is Shags. So
Hi.
she was excited to meet you.
Well, I appreciate you listening. You know, you still can on the KCMQ app. You can take us anywhere.
Yeah, Trevor needs to start paying me, man. I'm telling people out here about the KCMQ app. So did you download it?
I tried to this morning, but my mom wouldn't let me do it.
Oh,
Oh, get her on here right
we'll have to get
now.
Vicky on here. So, so yeah, there's Johnny standing over there. So we'll have Johnny on next week.
My man, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Good seeing you too, man. Sorry I didn't make it to your guys' final hurrah there in Jeff City. I
That's
really
all right. I'm
wanted
sure
to.
we'll have another. We need to get you out here to do some fishing.
Dude, I would love it. That would be fantastic.
We'll figure it out.
I think we might have to get a team.
Oh, you muted yourself, Brandon.
So Johnny's involved in this derby that's like 80 years old, and it's a big deal here. That's what's so cool about this place, is like there's traditions that are 100 years old, you know. So it'd be super fun to come back out here and do some hunting. So tell us about living on Martha's Vineyard compared to Missouri.
There is a big Brazilian environment in the school. A lot of kids speak Portuguese and I don't really know what they're saying. That's just a normal day at school. It's cold, but Johnny's currently making the clamming signal. We just got our clamming license and we're gonna go clamming on Saturday, and hopefully I can make some clams. We live right down the street from an ice cream spot, so that's pretty nice. And
so how do you go clamming? Because the coast that I grew up on, you had a shovel or like a little what they called a clam gun that you went in the sand and then you pulled the clam out. I'm assuming this is different out there.
like a rake.
Oh,
It's different. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get into about knee-deep water and pull a rake, the way people may be familiar with looking for shark's teeth down in Florida. So you just kind of pull it through the sand and, you know, shake the sand out, and you keep the clams. So they're not like the razor clams. They're the smaller clams.
Are they more like steamer clams?
I think so. No, I just told no. I said I think so, and then I was told no. So
These are quahogs, like the town from Family Guy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, Quahog.
Yeah.
And they're clams that generally chowders made from. Made from or stuffed quahogs, but yeah, they're quahogs. They're named different names for different sizes. There's a cherry stone or a little neck or a stuffer or a chowder. Those represent sizes, but it's all the same creature.
All right.
At different growth phases in its life.
So did you get a commercial license for it, or is this just a normal clamming license?
Just a normal any resident or non-resident can get. Just like you're going to
Gotcha.
hunt
Yeah.
squirrel or deer. Yeah. So we can
How many do you get?
You get a half bushel a week, which is about the equivalent of a 5-gallon bucket.
All right.
Yeah. It's fun. It's like I liken it to Easter egg hunting for adults in the water. It's like, oh, there's done with the rake.
But
Oh,
Violet
that's
knows that I'm not going in past my knees, though. This is where Jaws was filmed. This is it. This is ground zero for my phobia.
There's a Jaws bridge that kids jump off every year.
Yeah, who's not doing it?
You.
All right, you got any last questions for him? You gonna interview him real quick? What do you want to know?
Hold on.
All right.
Well, I certainly appreciate you listening.
Of course.
I'll have to get your address and your shirt sizes, and I'll send a swag bag out there with some stickers and stuff like
thanks.
that.
I remember one day with my mom, we were driving to school listening, and you guys were talking about Shags Club and how you were gonna have like rock music and Kool-Aid and like it'll be all fun, and I'm like, Mom, I want to go. Mom, I want to go. And she's like, well, I don't think you really want the Kool-Aid part, and I think it's gonna be for adults. So
Sounds like you just recruited a new Cult of Shags
Cult
member.
of Shags, and we just got some super cool Cult of Shags t-shirts in, so I'll be sure to send you one.
perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for a second.
Of course.
Go get some clams.
Oh, hopefully. And then the best part is you get to eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best part about doing anything with Johnny, huh? So,
That chowder is legit.
man, when she found out that I did the podcast with you, she was like, I was like, well, if you're good, I'll let you meet him.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah. So
Well-
that's why you can't leave Missouri, man.
No, that's true.
Little kids even love you.
I know, it's shocking. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, because there needs to be a round of thank yous too, and you're in that group as well, of just in the nice things you had said about my dad in the previous podcasts. I know that meant a lot to my family. Steve had even come up, which makes me laugh because I mean, maybe he doesn't know that I do some of the editing on it, but he's like, yeah, Brandon said some real nice things about your dad, and I was like, yeah, I heard. So just thanks for that. And then also just you watching Duke for a month, which was kind of funny in itself because he's been kind of pouty the last day and a half. I think he kind of misses his buds
He had a pack.
out there.
I told Lauren, I was like, it's just not the same hanging out with Barchi.
Yeah. So he's starting to come out of it now, but we did stumble across a gift, and I don't know if you want it to be a surprise or if you want me to tell you where it is and
Up to you, man. Up to you.
Well, the first one I think you'll appreciate because, I drove Dad's old truck back that was gifted to me, which is kind of funny because he never used to let me drive it when he had it, the 1999 Chevy Silverado. But I brought a bunch of my stuff home in case Mom decides to sell the house. This was my opportunity to take what I wanted to keep, and I found my old toy chest, and going through it, I found like a 1990-91 starting lineup, Mike Singletary from the Chicago
wow.
Bears. So I gifted that to you. I kept
Thank
my
you.
Ozzie Smith and my Vince Coleman, the
That's
St. Louis
cool.
Cardinals, but I saw that and automatically thought of you.
Huh.
And one day, Savannah and I spent an afternoon going through some antique stores, and we saw, I'm just going to ruin it because I'm super stoked. It's super cool. It is unoriginal 1992 movie poster for A River Runs Through It.
Oh man, that's
And
awesome.
we put it in a nice frame, and it looks super sharp. It looks so cool. I had it in my parents' house, like kind of over in a corner, and I kept staring at it.
You're kind of like, I don't know.
I even told Savannah, I was like, God, that looks so cool. I don't know if I want to give it to Brandon.
Well, that's awesome, man.
But
Thank
it's
you.
there, and we're very thankful for you watching the dog for us, and it meant a lot. So I
Well-
appreciate you. You're a good friend.
Well,
And
my pleasure. And I will say he's a great dog, and it was fun to have him there. But like in any situation, you learn lessons, right? And one of the things that some of the trainers and dog handlers at Retrieving Freedom will do is give the young dogs a deer antler, which is kind of a common thing, like you give a dog a deer antler, they can chew on the bone. Well, I just happen to have a whole pile of deer antlers that I've been collecting, and Duke didn't know that those weren't supposed to be his deer antlers. So,
Oh no.
yeah, I lost a few deer antlers. So, I came home and it was like the dog, like once he did it, the other dogs must have been like, well, this is okay, I guess, and there were deer antlers all across. Anna sent pictures. Anna walked in the house first and was like, oh my God, my dad is going to lose his mind, and but no, what can you do? So honestly, it is like a lesson. Like if we're gonna train these dogs that could be going to live in a house with veterans that have deer antlers, like can you imagine if a dog got a hold of like a guy's mounted buck and chewed
Oh.
it up? So I think we're done giving deer antlers to dogs for chew toys.
Well,
So
I
I
did
got
hear that old Willie got up on the counter and ate Duke's whole medicine bottle of like his
oh
allergy
yeah,
pills.
that was
The
115. That was
plastic
a
and
hundred and
all.
$115 Willie mistake. I was like, it's no big deal. I know the vet. I'll just get another prescription. Walked in there and $115. I was like, God damn it, Willie. But and then I was like, oh my God, is Willie gonna die? Is he overdosing? But no, it was like a non-toxic medicine. So but Duke, with his allergies, I've never experienced that with a dog before. But even when he's on his medicine, like he would come up to me a lot and kind of like rub his head like
Yeah.
on my leg, and you could tell he does itch a little bit. But that dude is stout, man. Like if he was a football player, he'd be a linebacker, no
Oh
doubt
yeah.
about it. So yeah, it was no trouble. One time he did kind of peel off, like got out behind the barn a little bit in the tall grass, and Anna couldn't find him, and she's texting me, and Lauren was on a call, and I'm like, you're not welcome back in the house ever until you find this dog. Thankfully she found him. Like I was like, there's no chance. I'm telling Savannah we lost their dog. Like find him. And he was just hiding behind the barn, like laying in the grass, so
Well, that sounds about right.
so
But
yeah, it was
I
fun.
also need to thank just of course Trevor, my co-host, and Carla Lively, for my boss, for giving me really a month off to go be with my family, and it's so much appreciated because Brandon, you know how close we are, small town,
Yeah.
close family. I mean, they're all 10 to 15 minutes away from each other, and I'm 1,500 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So you get home maybe once a year, and it's usually for Christmas. So you miss a lot. You miss all the birthdays, all the anniversaries, a lot of the special moments in your family's life. And it was just very special for them to kind of just say, you go do what you need to do. And they never once questioned how long I had to be there. I was kind of upfront from the very beginning of like, I don't know how long it will be, but I am coming back. And it was just, it was, I think it's rare nowadays to work for a company that cares about their employees that much, that they would let them go and take as much time as they need to be with their family. And I can't say it thank you enough for that happening. And then you letting Savannah be out there with me too, that really meant a lot to my mom and my family and me as well, to have her as another pillar of support through a difficult time. And her and dad had a real special relationship, especially when she was drinking, because those two could sit on the porch and drink Black Velvet like it was water together.
Yeah.
And it it,
Well,
it just meant a lot.
well, of course you're welcome, man. Like I said anything I could do, and I meant it, and um, yeah. So wish I could do more. Um, that's interesting though. You said drinking, and let's be honest. It probably didn't help your dad in his health, like how much he drank.
Oh no,
And
probably no. Yeah.
but what's so cool, man, is like, and so Johnny's sober now, and Vicky is too, and so we're having those conversations. So I was like, I was making plans, or like, what do you need? Like, what's so fun too is I'm sleeping in the back of a box van. So when I was when I was a kid, like we had box vans at my dad's business, where we hauled carpet around and stuff. So I'd take box vans camping. These are like the mini U-Hauls, not like a van, but like a delivery truck. So Johnny's like, our house is small. Um, you can sleep on the couch, but the two kids, and I was like, no, man, like I'll pitch a tent like in the backyard. He's like, well, we don't really have a backyard, but we got a box van. And I had this like immediate like vision of me at a Dead concert or a Fish concert in college, and it was like some great times, you know. So I was like, yes, do that. And so I'm sleeping out in the backyard in a van, but we're sitting out here talking about drinking. And my point being, like, I'm pretty low maintenance. Like, I'll sleep in a van. Like, I don't need anything. Whatever food we eat, I'm gonna be happy. And I don't. By the way, I don't drink anymore. And they're like, oh, good. We don't either, you know. So that was interesting. And then, Savannah as well. And then Joe Rogan, God bless Joe Rogan for just coming out and saying, like, I spend so much time on my health, and then I go poison myself a few times a week. Like, what am I doing here? And then we can all sit back and also say, like you just did, like, we had some great times. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here telling anybody like you should never drink. Like, you just, you got to be careful, and if it gets to the point where it's too much, you turn the key off, like we did. And so it's neat that society is going in that direction. So hopefully we can, live a little bit longer than, those guys that never turned it off.
Yeah, and I
So,
should clarify, like later on, he was kind of forced to with the medication and stuff that he was on, but he definitely led quite the life. We'll just put it that
oh yeah,
way. He
yeah.
was never afraid of a black velvet half-gallon jug.
And you always, I guess, yeah, every time you talk about this kind of stuff, you got to like preface it with it. And I'm not saying your dad was by any means an alcoholic. He just had a good time to the end until he
Yeah.
couldn't, and and we probably would have done that too. But like, we're learning from those people that, like, party when you're young, grow up when it's time. And that's kind of like, it seems that more and more people are going that way. And it's nice to see. So,
No, 100%. And it's funny that you
so
brought that up about Joe Rogan. I heard that too, and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You do work out so hard and
yeah.
worry about your body and your health so much, and then to spend 3 nights a week putting poison in it, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it's kind of like one step forward and two steps back. So, um, yeah, I guess got that podcast done on the CWD. I thought it turned out good for trying to find something to do. I couldn't be more proud of how Jason handled that. And
Oh yeah.
me, anybody that's listened to the pod for a while, it's like I'm critical of the legislature when I need to be, but I was very adamant about praising that committee for how they handled it. I thought those senators handled it really well. They asked the right questions. I think they genuinely wanted to know the answers. Um, I think they were surprised by how many people had written in, which shows you what that side of the movement looks like. And the thing that disappoints me is there's not more of us. There's not more of the people that appreciate how good we have it, stepping up to defend, the way MDC is handling CWD, which is, it's a horrible situation to be in. But if you talk to anybody from another state, that's especially up in Wisconsin, places like that, even what we heard from Grant Woods and that guy in Kansas, and they're not able to grow deer over 3 years old out there anymore. And the part, oh man, not to go off on this, but the part that frustrates me the most is like, yeah, like it's the hunting celebrities that are the worst, and they're the worst for so many reasons. But like, one of the guys that I never really found controversial is Lee Lukoski, and it's like Lee and Tiffany, and there's a clip floating around to him just saying like CWD is not really a big deal, and EHD kills all these deer, and that EHD CWD confusion. It's like, yeah, cancer kills a lot of people and heart attacks kill a lot of people. They're not the same. Like, it's like you don't treat them the same. They're not even close to the same reason. So to hear these people who are financially invested in killing deer for marketing purposes discredit like where we're going with this disease, it's one more reason to just to have disdain for that that side of the hunting world. I don't think much good at all has come out of the last 20 years of hunting media. Um, the jealousy that it's bred. I'll tell you this, and there'll be a lot more about it because I was super surprised. There's a really good dude named Jeremy Flynn. He has a podcast called Hunter, and it's like the word hunter without the E, so it's HUNTR. And I talked about it maybe a little bit on the last podcast, but in the spirit of Donald Trump and Bill Maher sitting down to break bread, I just love that. I love when people who don't agree can have good conversations. When two people that are willing to do that and both have some intelligence, it's worth listening to. And he talked about like starting North American Whitetail magazine and how they very much are responsible for this antler craze and what it's done to hunting. And that's the truth. Like if it wasn't for the size of antlers concerned, we wouldn't have these people pushing back the way they are. At least not all of them. Some of them just hate MDC. And there's the crowd of people that hate everything. They have nothing, so they don't want anybody else to have anything. There's that crowd, but there are the like, I don't want kids hunting because they'll shoot my buck. The anti-youth season people. Those are the
Yeah.
worst, and they're out there. So, but man, I am getting a notification that my MacBook is about to die because I'm sitting outside in this beautiful weather. We're almost to an hour. I think we'll just skip, the gear review and all that stuff as well. It's been we didn't miss any weeks this time, so we made it through on a little bit of a different schedule. But I'm super glad you're back, and I'm really sorry about your dad. I'm really glad that you were able to spend that time out there, and I'm really glad to hear that your mom's going to come out and spend some time. And um, can't wait to have Uncle Steve back out here. So it's really nice to feel like through our friendship, I've made friends with people in your family, and
Oh
I
yeah, you're part of the family for sure, man.
care about those people, and you know, it, it it's got to be really hard. So I'm,
Well, and I should
hopeful.
say one final thank you to everyone that reached out. The
Mhm.
messages, texts, and private messages through Facebook and Instagram. There was a lot of people from the podcast that listened to the podcast and friends and just everyone that reached out. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And yeah, it's I mean,
Yeah.
we already talked about it. We're all going to go through it. It sucks,
Yep.
but I mean, we'll make it. We'll be fine.
You see in times like this, like how many people care about you, and that energy lifts you up, man. You must have been floating high because the people that love you that come out of the woodwork, it's pretty impressive. So even the guy that we are doing our walleye trip with, he took the initiative to reach out to me, and he's like, "Hey, I know Shags is back home. Let's just reschedule this, and when you guys are back to normal." So thank you to him for showing that graciousness, things like little things like that.
Yeah, that's very cool. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, because we kind of missed that. We missed that
Yeah.
date, and it may have to be next spring. We'll have to take them out.
No, Nelson said like it actually is probably good. Like the walleye weren't doing their thing yet,
Oh,
so
really?
we need to get it rebooked and get going. So
All right, let's do
yeah,
it.
so
All right, we'll
uh,
get out of here. Go get some clams and kill a turkey, and let's jump back on here and do a hunting recap with old Johnny.
yeah, we'll have Johnny on. We've got a guy named Kevin Rhodes coming up, B4 Outdoors, and Johnny and quite a few more. So hopefully people are enjoying this new format and we can keep rolling with it. So welcome home, Shags, and we'll see you down the trail.